Hey, everybody, welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I'm your host, Ben Cross, and I am blessed and honored to bring to you a very interesting guest, Miss Kristi Davis, owner of AvenueWest Raleigh. Going to get to hear about her story in corporate housing, how she got into the business, some of the obstacles that she's faced, kind of a different business model in corporate housing. And then actually her own first person struggles with COVID-19. She caught COVID-19. She overcame it. She's here to tell us about it. So that's kind of interesting too, because I know there's a lot of people actually who haven't met anybody yet or don't have anybody in their life who's actually contracted the disease. So a lot of really cool and interesting things to talk about with Kristi. Before we get started, I want to go ahead and talk to you about our book club book of the month. Book club book of the month is Fear is My Homeboy. And isn't it ever? And it's Fear is My Homeboy, How to Slay, Doubt, Boss Up, and Succeed on Your Own Terms, written by Miss Judy Holler. If you want to holler at Judy, it is hello@judyholler.com. She will be on the show with us on the 28th. I still need two or three people to come on and talk about the book with me. So if that sounds fun to you, I would love it if you reach out to me or Janet. There you go. And go ahead and get on the show. So thanks so much, Janet. Appreciate that. Let's go ahead and bring out Miss Kristi Davis. Hey, Kristi, how's it going?
Hi. Hey, good. How are you today?
I am fantastic. I'm here with you. You are in
Thank
Raleigh,
you.
right? You're in Raleigh, North Carolina?
Technically, we're in Raleigh. We're in a little city right outside of Raleigh called Morrisville, but
Yeah,
our business is in Raleigh. So, yeah, we're excited to
Morrisville.
be here today.
That's awesome. So me and my wife lived in Raleigh for gosh, 4 years maybe. We had our first son in Raleigh, and
Awesome.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
know
yeah.
the
So
area well then.
not well. I don't get too attached. I just but yeah, we know it pretty well. We were right there on 401 in near Rollsville.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
very
we
cool.
we just moved to Morrisville from Durham. So,
Oh yeah.
we're happy to be in a much more family friendly area. So,
Very cool. Awesome. Awesome. Well, hey, if you're watching this right now, we got 7 people on Facebook. We got a few people on LinkedIn. They're still coming in right now. Go ahead and hit that like button. Give Kristi Davis a virtual applause with that green button over there. And look at this. We got some folks chiming in here. Jamie Master, hi, Ben and Kristi. Cheers from hot and humid Mississippi.
oof, yeah, that is hot and humid. Hey Ben.
What's Well, Jamie,
Or
take
Jamie,
care of
sorry.
yourself out there. Right, stay hydrated, buddy. Okay, beer counts. Take it easy. Mow early. All right, and you'll be all right, buddy. Hang in there. Fernando, hello from Brazil. Still have a headache, so I don't know if you watched on Friday, but we have Fernando on as the capstone to our Latam, including Brazil week, and Fernando probably had to take about 5 shots of aguardiente, cachaça, because he kept losing in a trivia game that he wrote. So yeah, just let that be a warning to everybody that wants to do trivia with Ben Cross on Love and Relo. Just kidding. Kristi, have you ever you ever been to Brazil by any chance? Weird
I
question.
haven't. My husband's from Trinidad, so we went there 2 years ago. But that's the
Nice.
extent of my travel outside of the United States, unfortunately.
What was your impression of Trinidad? Because I've had some friends from Trinidad, never Tobago, but from Trinidad. What's your impression of Trinidad?
It was a beautiful country, so much to see, very different. Like I don't even know how to describe how different it is. The culture is so vastly different from what we would experience here. But it was so much fun, and everyone was so kind and welcoming. And even though I was very different from what they were used to seeing in the areas that we were in, they
Hmm.
were so just open and loving towards me, and it was a lot of fun. It it's just a gorgeous country. You have beach on one side and you have jungle on the other, and there's so much to see and do. I highly recommend going.
Okay. All right. Put Trinidad on the long list of
Yeah.
countries I'm now obligated to go
Yep.
to from Love
You
and
need to
Reload.
go. It's beautiful.
Nice. Awesome. Very cool. Very
There's
cool.
very large snakes and spiders though, so watch out for those.
Spiders I'm cool with. Snakes are a little more mobile on those.
Oh, they just drop from trees. If we walk in, yeah. My husband has so many stories of when he was a
Like,
kid. He was just walking down the street and the snake would just fall in front of him.
I
Yeah,
mean, are
'cause
they like venomous? Are they like, is it a
yeah,
problem?
yeah, oh yeah. Like there very few non-venomous snakes in Trinidad. So yeah, just stay away from like the jungly areas and you'll be okay.
I feel like this is like a problem. Like I feel like there are very few non-venomous snakes. Like it's a survival of the fittest. Like only the venomous survive.
Just stay away from the jungle. Just
Oh my
go to
gosh,
populated
that's
areas. You'll be
actually a
good.
T-shirt I have. I do. I tend to stay away from the jungles here in Southline, Michigan. Sandra Clary, hi, Ben and Christy. Looking forward to
Hi,
today's
Sandra.
corporate housing plus conversation. Sandra, you're the best. You actually read the notes, the show notes. She like thinks about it. She internalizes it. She comes up with some interesting comments and questions.
Responds.
Yeah, like some of these people just like tune in and then they just go about their business, and start filling out their Detroit Free Press Runner of the Month applications. Speaking of which, hey, Thomas Bailey, how's it going? What's up, Ben? Tuning in from far, far, far away at Farmington Hills, Michigan. Little known fact, Tommy could run to me in probably 25 minutes. Thomas Bailey, shout out to you, buddy, former co-host of The Gross Up and my good friend and the Detroit Free Press Runner of the Month. Look at that. We got like many celebrities here. Janaina Chesnowski, hi from South America. Christy and Ben, thanks for checking in, everybody. Janaina, awesome co-host last week. Hey, if you're watching, go ahead and hit that like button. Let everybody know we are on right now. I want you to hit that thing. All right. Casey Gale, we're going to give everybody just a moment longer to come in.
I love San Diego. It's one of my favorite places.
San Diego, I think, is a top 5 city for me. What do you love about San Diego?
Well, I used to do travel nursing. And when I was a travel nurse, I worked at the VA in San Diego. I lived in La Jolla. And it was just so much fun. Like I could hop on a bus anywhere I wanted to go. I went to the beach like daily. It was just so relaxed. Like the attitude there is just so laid back and you could get really good, healthy food, like cheap. I mean, everything else is ridiculously expensive, but like you could eat healthy and you felt good about yourself, just walking down the streets. Like, I don't feel like there's that many places that can afford that just happiness.
Yeah.
So, but you got to pay for it to live there. So
odd question, but did you ever go to Tijuana when you were there?
I didn't because at that time I didn't have a passport and I know you could go just on your license, but I didn't want to risk it because I was getting married in like 6 weeks.
Yeah. Jamie Master Fernando is now a legend. Yes, he is. 6 shots still standing. Holly Moore. Christy is a rock star.
Hey, Holly.
How do you know Holly?
Holly actually works with AvenueWest. She is the head of sales for AvenueWest. So she's awesome and love working with her.
Awesome, Holly. Thanks for checking in. Tim Quirk checking in from Rockin' and Rollin', West New York.
Hi, Tim.
Look at Tim getting in the sauce early today. Appreciate you, Tim. Janet Turner, snakes dropping from trees. No. Hey, we got to take a moment real quick, okay? We got to shout out Janet. Janet Turner just became a Grammy today, a grandmother. Yay. So let's give Janet a round of applause, okay? Hit that little heart icon if you're watching right now. Show Janet some love. We are so excited for her. Just had a healthy, her son had a healthy baby, and she's out in Colorado and taking care of Grammy business out there. So love you, Janet. Hope you're doing well. So happy for you. Let's see here. Mena from Dubai checking in. Hey, Mena. Elena Anderson Delay, greetings from super warm Maryland, Ben and Christy. All right, so everybody, I want to encourage you to leave questions in the comments. I want you to be feel free to ask Christy. She's promised to answer anything we throw at her today, but I promise I'd be gentle. But ask her any kinds of questions about corporate housing, about our company, about Avenue West, about anything that we discussed today. We're going to be talking a little bit about her experiences with COVID-19. Pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So leave those in the comments because we've got an expert who had COVID-19 and is also a nurse, so is qualified to speak about it from both angles.
Hi, that I am.
Yeah, pretty cool. Shout out to everybody checking in and giving Janet some love. So leave that in the comments as well. All right, so Christy, before we get into all the other stuff, I do want to understand your journey. Okay, so here you are today. You're on LOVE+RELO. You're with Avenue West in Raleigh. But how did you? What made you start a business? Okay, I want to understand it because I'm fascinated with. I want to start a business. I want to be a business owner one day. I aspire to be like you. How does one find themselves in a position where they're like, screw it, I'm going out on my own?
So that is a very long story that I'm going to do my very best to shorten it, to give you the Cliff Notes version. So background on me a little bit. I have been a nurse since I was 20 years old. I graduated college early, started my career early, bought my first house a year after going into being a nurse. Kind of did everything like that you were supposed to do.
Seriously.
Yeah, so I did that. I got married to my husband, left that house and said, well, what am I going to do? I have this house and now I've got to go move to be with my husband.
Yeah.
So I turned it into a rental.
And then
Didn't
where
know.
was this? I'm sorry. Where
This
were you?
was in Gainesville, Georgia. So about
Okay, so you were in Georgia.
45 minutes north of Atlanta.
Okay.
We were living in Augusta. My husband was getting his PhD in pharmacology. So I had to move to Augusta, which is about 3 hours south. So we obviously turned the home into a rental because at that time, that was in 2010, not a good time to sell your home, still kind of coming out of the crash.
Sure.
So we decided, actually it was 2013, just kidding. But still not a good time to sell your home. So we decided, hey, let's turn it into a rental. I knew nothing.
So this is interesting, okay, because I want to pause you for one moment here, okay? Because I know so many people that are moving. Obviously, I'm a moving company. There's people call me all the time like, Ben, I'm moving. I know so many people that are moving that either just bought a house, so maybe like they don't have a ton of equity in it. Maybe the market isn't where they want it to be, although it's pretty robust right now, but maybe it's just not where they want it to be for whatever reason, where they feel like they can sell it. I want to talk about it because I think this is fascinating. The fact that you decided, you know what, I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to rent it. And not only did you rent it, you're going to tell me how you rent it, but yeah. Can you talk about how people even get into this? Like, if I want to sell my house, but I can't get what I need to get for it, like, how can I rent it? Like,
well, you have a couple of options. Obviously, you hire a company, but what we found, and this is the journey that brought us to where we are today, the company that we hired got an ex-con that had written multiple bad checks and had an eviction record into our home. And we had trusted that the people that they were putting in the home, they had done their background, and we trusted them because we didn't know anything about being property managers at that point. And if there's anything, if you learn anything about me and my husband, it's that we don't do anything halfway anymore. we learn from our mistakes. So when we originally did this, it was neither of us knew anything about property management. We knew we had a property. We knew we couldn't live in it. We knew we couldn't sell it. So we said, let's rent it. We hired a company that promised the world and said, oh, we'll get you a tenant. You just pay us 10%. Well, that's exactly what they did. They got a tenant. They didn't do the background check. They got their 10% a month. They never stepped foot in the home again. Fast forward a year, they renewed that tenant's lease without our approval, because we would have said, no, we want a new tenant. So they renewed the lease without our approval. So now we're stuck a whole nother year with this tenant. So then the second year that we have this tenant, we're wanting this tenant out because we're getting reports from neighbors saying they're throwing rocks in the air conditioner unit. You know, they're terrorizing the pool. It was a really nice neighborhood with a pool and a tennis court and on a lake with a dock. It was a nice home. So they were basically destroying the home. So we decided we weren't going to renew their lease. We kicked out the property management company and said we could do this better. My husband is in research. So he's got a PhD in the ability to learn. So anything he needs to know, he can figure out. And that's what he's very talented at it. So he said, we're going to do this ourselves. So we kicked them out. Well, when we kicked them out, we ended up having to evict them because they decided they were going to keep staying, even though we didn't renew their lease. So we ended up having to evict them.
Did they start squatting? Like, how does that even work?
They said that they were going to stay for another month because, we had their security deposit and that allowed them to stay for another month. And we said, no, that's not how it works. Goodbye. So we had to kick them out, unfortunately. Well, on their way out, they left dog poop on the walls. They completely destroyed the carpet, water damage all over the floors. They broke the air conditioning unit because their kids were throwing rocks into it. I mean, I'm telling you, it was $30,000 worth of damage to this home.
Oh my gosh.
It was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. And it's all because one property management company that we trusted to get proper tenants into the home and then maintain the home didn't. And so
did you have any recourse at that time against that property management company?
No, because get this, the property management company dissolved. You can't even find them. They changed names. I don't even know. We could have sued them, but the amount of money it takes to sue somebody makes it not worth suing them.
I have a theory on this, right? Where people believe whatever they find on the internet. So if somebody's a company and they don't have, tons of scam reports on them, then they must be decent. Just because they have a company, they went out and got an LLC one day. Exactly. But I have a feeling that this is going to come back as everything does in cycles. And then it's going to go back to being relationships and people that you can vouch for and the people that you actually have seen and know who they are and you can look up the owner, because I think it's so easy to stand up a company and just do some disreputable things.
Say you do something that then you don't do,
and they just vanish, and then because you have an LLC you can just walk away from it. So that's
exactly and that's exactly what this company did. We had no recourse, and honestly we didn't have the money at the time to sue them anyway. So we were like, you know what, we learn from our mistakes. We learn that we will never trust anyone else with our property ever again. Because this was actually the second property management company that we had hired. The first one we fired within a few months after hiring them. So we decided no one else but us is going to treat our property the way it deserves, that way it would be treated. Because the thing is, this is an investment. This is our money that we worked very hard to get, that we then are putting into this property. Yeah. It's not just a random home. And then on top of that, you get good quality tenants and you show them that you care about the home, they're going to turn around and care about the home just as much. So that's that relationship. So we got amazing tenants in there that they were a bunch of nursing students. They rented it basically by the room. And what we did was, this is what began what we like to call our slow flip model. We went ahead and renovated the place. We did all the fixtures and we said, you know what? Because everyone says, oh, don't put money into it. It's just a rental. Don't put money into it. It's just a rental. Well, if you have that attitude, then yeah, it is just a rental. And that's exactly what you're going to get out of it. But if you put time, effort, care and money into it, the people that are renting it are going to see that and they're going to maintain it. And so that's exactly what we did. We went ahead and spent the $30,000 it took to renovate the place. We had it looking amazing. We put granite countertops, all new flooring, brand new paint. It was gorgeous. And so we did that, and then we got the tenants in there, and when they moved out 2 years later, it looked exactly the same as it did when we renovated it 2 years prior. We were also there. We made sure that we went and we visited at least once a month. We would bring them cookies. I would drop by and give them a dog bone because they had a dog. Yeah, they even had a dog and a cat. And the place was immaculate when they left.
Which is something that your property management company probably should have been doing, is stopping by and
no property management company does that. They really don't. That's the thing. They get their 10% and they disappear until it's time to get a new tenant in. And that's why when you walk in the homes are destroyed because there's no accountability being had with those tenants.
So tell me, okay, so tell me about this. So the nursing students move out, you've renovated it still looks great. Now, what do you decide? It's 2016. What do you decide?
The market has rebounded, and we said, you know what? It's been 2 years. We've been renting it on our own. We're doing fine, but we had to move to North Carolina because Jason got a job in North Carolina. He graduated from with his PhD, and so we had to move. And we said, you know what? We don't want to manage it from 6 hours away. Let's sell it. We staged the place. Because anyone who's selling a home, you should always stage because you will get more money for it. But we staged the place. And then within 24 hours, we had 6 offers. And honestly, our real estate agent did nothing. Well, she was great. She's a great agent. But we knew that what we had put into the place, we were going to get back. And we ended up selling that home for $80,000 profit, like more than we purchased it for. On top of it sold $20,000 over what market value was saying it should have sold for, because of what the renovations that we did and the care that we had for the place. And honestly, we made that money back in those 2 years that we were renting it. We made most of the money back from renting it. So the renovations were covered by the tenants.
So now you moved to North Carolina. What do you decide to do then?
Well, we decided to buy another property, and we said, you know what, we could buy it and live in it, or we could buy it and make money. At this time, right after we sold it, right when we were looking to buy a property, we were considering living in it, but then my husband lost his job. So we went from 2 steady incomes to 1. And as a nurse, luckily I had the ability to work insane hours to be able to kind of make up for that loss. But that had me working, 5 and 6 12-hour shifts a week. And, meanwhile, my husband is having a full-time job of finding a job. I'm not sure if you've ever been jobless, but getting a job when you don't have one is not easy. Right. So he was looking for a job, and we just got together and we said, what are we going to do? We just literally, we had 1 week until closing when he lost his job. And we were like, what are we going to do with this property? It's impossible. We need money. How is this property? And we thought, well, why don't we just rent it out? Well, then we looked at it, and renting it out was only going to make us enough to cover the mortgage and maybe $100 extra. That wasn't going to give us positive cash flow.
Right, exactly.
And that's when we said, well, we do have a little bit of money left over from the previous property. And we looked at it and we said, okay, AirBNB, why don't we furnish it and rent it out furnished? Let's see how that goes. Jason didn't have a job, and we said, well, let's make this your job. And once again, the Davises don't do anything halfway. So when he said, all right, this is my job.
And he's a PhD. He's a PhD running an Airbnb. Yeah. So he's got his PhD in Airbnb over here.
Exactly. Well, not only that, he's a PhD in pharmacology, meaning he does microbiology and cell culture. And he is he is one of the most meticulous, particular people you will ever meet. Right. So when I say that our home was spotless, you would not have been able to find a speck of dust anywhere in that home, because that's the way Jason maintained it.
So how did the Airbnb experiment go?
Oh, it was gangbusters. So we started out within 2 months. Airbnb called us and said, hey, we want to feature you on the website, and we want to pay you to allow us to take pictures and feature you as this new Airbnb Plus thing that they were doing. Basically, we were getting nothing but 5-star ratings, rave reviews, and we were booked solid. The only time we had a break was when we purposefully blocked it off, because we were like, we need a break.
Yeah. So you're booked solid with Airbnb, and then what do you do at that point? Because you got one property, you're booked up. I mean, do you raise prices? Do you get another property? What do you do?
Well, the problem happened. This is where corporate housing came into play. So we were rock starring it with Airbnb. We were making $4,000 a month off of a 2-bedroom property. It was going really well. And then all of us, and that money we were making, it was almost enough to cover what Jason had lost with his job, because it was an entry level, just out of grad school job. So it was almost enough to cover it. And so we were like, okay, we'll actually be okay. We can do this. And then the HOA got involved. And they
Uh-oh.
decided that they didn't like having, people coming in and out, not knowing who the renters are. And they decided to enforce a 20-year-old rule that had never been enforced before.
Well, I have a feeling that Airbnb is putting a lot of people,
Yep.
whether it be hoteliers or be
Well, here's the
independent
thing. Our
private
Airbnb
residents.
was
Yeah.
phenomenal. The Airbnb, 3 streets down was a whorehouse. Like,
Oh, wow.
not literally, but I mean,
Oh,
like, that's
okay.
what it looked like. They were
Okay.
renting for like $20-something a day, and it was like
Oh,
a
okay.
room so like that's the problem that we were finding with Airbnb, and same with the type of tenants that we would get from Airbnb is there was no consistency. You would have Jane and Jim from Australia smoking pot for a month, or you would have, these really awesome business people who were very respectful and kept the place clean and neat. But that one, Jane and Jim from Australia smoking pot for a month ruined your ability to be able to re-rent the place for like a week. So the lack of consistency of clients mixed with the lack of consistency of standards left us not really liking what we were getting from Airbnb. And also, Airbnb guests are used to not getting what they were getting from us. They're used to not having the quality and the standards that we provided with our units. So that's why you would get a lot of people who weren't respectful of it because they didn't understand the work that went into it.
Right. And I question whether or not you're able to charge full value for that extra service you're giving in that kind of transactional retail environment, which does lend itself strategically to going with a corporate environment like what you're talking about.
Exactly.
So it's so interesting to me. So here you are, you have all these pivot points in your, I mean, let's just say since you've been married, right? And where you got to move to Augusta, and then you rent there, and then you got to move up to Raleigh, and then you rent there, and you're Airbnb, and it's crushing it. But then all of a sudden, boom, HOA steps in, and all these other things happen, and you have to pivot so often. And speaking of pivot, really quick before you get into how you got into corporate housing, want to do some quick shout outs there. Speaking of pivot, Lynn Greenberg, hi all, checking in from New York, Pivot app. What's up, Lynn?
Awesome. Hi, Lynn.
Laura Mian Agazian. Hi, Ben and Christy. Congrats again, Janet.
Hi.
I'm gonna drop my let's see here. Hold on one moment here. Let's see. Janaina, listening to your story of your Gainesville property. OMG, this is a nightmare.
It was.
Yeah, right. Right. Let's see. Janet Turner, I've recently gone through the same thing with a rental property. Yeah. What Janet's not saying is her parents live in that rental property. So it's a half truth. Not the problem. They're the solution. Gabby says this story is so fascinating. What an inspiration. Yeah,
thanks.
That's why I have you on here, Christy, because I was listening to your story and I'm like, this story is wild. Your story is crazy. It's inspirational. It's super relatable. It resonates with people because I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people out there right now that maybe are between jobs right now. And they're like, what the hell am I going to do with myself? And I got to tell you what, like your story, you get knocked down, you get curveballs, but you guys always get back up. You come through it better than ever. And I just absolutely love it. George Meyer, hello from corporate living in New York City.
Hi, George.
All right. So, and then I did this little surprise cat face when you said whorehouse for the first time. So somebody had to be the first on Love and Reload. Anyway, all right, moving on.
They actually accused us of being a whorehouse. Like they really did, because the one down the street was having it was renting by the room, and it was. And we were just like, okay, we're done.
This is a judgment-free zone. Okay, this is Love and Reload, judgment-free.
I'm sure my husband is rolling his eyes right now.
Oh gosh! All right, cool. All right, so the HOA steps in and says no more Airbnbs. Clean up your act, everybody. And then what did you guys decide to do?
Well, we said there's got to be a need for longer-term stays that are like furnished. So let's look into that. And once again, we don't do anything halfway. So that's a recurring theme in our life as a family and as a unit and as a business. At this point, we had created our business so that we could run the Airbnb through it. We were at Roku Properties. And So we said, okay, well, let's look into, let's find out. There's got to be more than just Airbnb available. If we can't do, 1 week stays, let's see about doing month to month. What can we do? So we started doing our research, and that's how we kind of discovered corporate housing. But everything we found on corporate housing was apartments. And we were just like, why is it only apartments? Like, nobody likes living in apartments. So why is that the only option? So we kept looking. And so we said, you know what, if people are paying this kind of, because we did our research, we called and pretended like, hey, I need a 2-bedroom apartment. We did that. There were a lot of those phone calls. Sorry, companies that didn't actually get a sale, but so we did our, and like, if they're getting that much money as an apartment, we already own the furniture. We already own the property. Well, heck, we could do it too. So we did. And within a week of advertising it and pushing it as a rental, a furnished rental, we got the most amazing client ever in there that was actually there for she was there for 8 months. And she was the CEO of a company that had just moved to Raleigh, and she needed a night. She valued quality, and everything she looked at in temporary housing did not match the style and the consistency and the quality that she was looking for.
What was it? Was it the size of unit? Was it the quality of furnishings? Was it the location? What do you think made the difference to that CEO?
It was the quality of the furnishings as well as the size, and it was everything you just said is what it was. So it was the ability to be able to live in a place, have privacy, because those apartments, and what she said she didn't like about the apartments is you didn't have the privacy, as well as the units that she had looked at. She is very style and design was very important to her. And everything that she looked at lacked that. It all looked the same. It looked like it was all rented from the same company. Hint, hint, it was. Taking
shots at the furniture companies over here.
There's only one that rents in this area, and there's, all of the corporate housing companies use them. So she was like, this is different. And the other thing is the quality that we provided, because she looked at Airbnbs as well for like long term, and none of them provided the cleanliness and the quality and the attention to detail that we provided. And so it was a no-brainer for her. And on top of that, it was significantly cheaper than the 1-bedroom, and even she looked at a few 2-bedroom apartments that she was looking at. So it was a no-brainer for her.
So I got to ask, so you advertise, when you say you advertised and you said, was it a 2-bedroom home? What size home was it?
Well, it's actually a 3-bedroom, but we didn't like the 3rd bedroom because it was too small to really be a decent bedroom. So we turned it actually into a bar sitting area. So we we got rid of the closet. I wish I had pictures for you. We got rid of the closet and we turned it into a bar, and then we had like a sitting area and a big TV. So it was basically a second living room. We had it set up for 2 different corporate people. So if 2 different people wanted to stay, like say, like now we get a lot of construction contractors and whatnot, they want 2 of their people to stay in the same place so that they can save money. We had set it up so you could have 2 completely private areas so that you didn't have to share space other than the kitchen.
Sure.
So that's how that was kind of set up.
Yeah, I used to see those Duke Energy guys staying at the Hampton Inn all the time when I go to Raleigh.
Oh yeah.
So I know what you're talking about. But when you said you advertised it, where did you advertise it in order to find?
So I'll give a little plug here to those who don't know, but Corporate Housing by Owner. It's a website that was actually created by the initial owner of AvenueWest. AvenueWest, the company that we are now, has actually been around for over 20 years. And they started out, we are a property management company. So we allow investors to be able to turn their homes into corporate housing, allowing the quality and consistency to be standardized throughout all of our properties, because we are the ones that are managing, and we are the ones that are doing the furnishing, and we are the ones that are
All right, so I gotta ask. I gotta stop you here because okay, so I'm in this house. I got a nice house. I got a big house, right?
Uh-huh.
And I've only been in it for a couple of years, but like say I wanted to move somewhere, right?
Uh-huh.
And I got this big old house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this would be fantastic for a large family of an executive who's
Yeah.
relocating to the area or whatever. I don't, I'm going to take my furniture with me, but I'm looking at these right now. These holy smokes, these monthly rents are very nice. Okay. All right. So then I would reach out. So I'm on corporatehousingbyowner.com right now, which is
But if you do
corporatehousingbyowner.com.
it corporate housing by owner, you're the one managing it. It is not a property management company. It is a
Do I have to find my own
advertising.
furniture? Do I have to find my own furniture if I
Yep.
use that company? Okay.
Well,
So
unless you want to rent, but I don't suggest it because you're going to throw away money if you rent.
Okay.
And you're not going to get quality. You're not going to get the same quality you would get if you designed and furnished it yourself.
Well, if I design and furnish it though, I'm going to spend probably like 30 grand probably on furnishings, right?
You're going to make it back in the first year of renting it.
All right. Well, fine. All right, Christy, this is very interesting. This is very, very, very interesting. Okay. All right. So anyway, so you were shouting out. Where were we? I'm sorry, I got off track here.
So I shout out to CHBO because that's how we found our initial client was corporate housing by owner. But keep in mind, we're the one managing it. It is a lot of work luckily we found someone that ended up renting for 8 months. But if you find someone that's just a month, you're having to turn it, you're having to flip it, you're still having to be in that property fairly frequently. So it is yes, you can do it yourself, but do you want to do it yourself when you have a full-time job and you have other things that you need to be doing? So what Avenue West provides is the ability to be able to turn your home into that higher level of rental than what you get with long-term tenants, and to be able to just write you a check at the end of every month. You don't have to actually lift a finger to know that your home is being taken care of, and it's attracting this higher quality of tenants.
Okay, so this is great, and I got a question here from Janet Turner, right? Mm-hmm. So Janet Turner says, "Does Avenue West only have homes versus apartments in their inventories?"
That's a great question. It's a mixture. So if I have a company saying, "Hey, I need to house 50 people." If I don't have 50 properties, then I'm going to need to open up some apartments and do that. And we do that from time to time if we need to. For the most part, though, our properties are individually managed properties. It's homes, it's condos, it's townhomes, single family home situation for the most part. But that being said, we're perfectly capable of, if we get a large move in or a major company wanting to use us, we're perfectly capable of finding units and making that happen as well, just like any other corporate housing company. But what sets us apart from any other corporate housing company is the fact that most of our inventory is single family homes.
And I think that's so interesting, right? So when I moved to Michigan from Raleigh, right, and I was living in a beautiful, I guess you call it a townhouse or semi-attached house, 3-bedroom in a community with a pool and all sorts of nice stuff, right? And then of course someone to do my landscaping for me, right? So I didn't have to touch it. It was the best of both worlds. And I was because I was renting that house, and I moved to Michigan. I was looking for a 3-bedroom-ish house, single family house, or semi-attached or something like that with a little bit of a yard, whatever. I couldn't find anything. I mean, even unfurnished, you're talking about like $3,500 a month. And it was just, it was wild to me. I mean, just out of this world. I couldn't imagine. And so I ended up staying in an Embassy Suites for a week or something until I found a place, and it was, whatever. We did the best we could. I guess my point is, if renting a furnished a furnished single family home was an option, or at least one that I was aware of, I mean, I got to think that would work. And I got to think that works for a lot of people with kids, because I've stayed in some phenomenal corporate housing apartments, and shout out to all my friends in corporate housing, because they're probably like, giving me the evil eye right now. But no, I love the apartments. Like I go to Chicago, I stay downtown in the apartments all the time.
It's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with them. They're beautiful. But when it comes of families relocating, it may not be the best option.
Exactly.
If I have a 6-month-old baby, I don't want to be lugging them in and out of an apartment complex, especially in the times of COVID right now with apartments and having that shared living space. It's a little bit, it's more dangerous. And with the way corporate travel is changing, companies are being more aware of that, and they still need to travel, but they're saying, how can we be safer with our travel? We still need to travel. We still need to move people. How can we be safer with that? And that is one thing that Avenue West takes very seriously, and that we're able to do a little bit differently than anyone else, because our properties are individual homes. And the thing, and people say, oh gosh, a 3-bedroom home, that's going to be so expensive. There's no way we could afford that. That's going to be so much more. It's not. Because the thing is, not only are they single family homes, but they're owned by individual owners who otherwise were going to be getting half the amount of rent that they get as corporate housing. So we're still able to keep that pricing competitive, and in most cases significantly lower than what you would rent the apartments for, because we don't have overhead.
Now you talked about COVID, and I want to get to that. I want to hear about your story as well, because I think everybody's fascinated by this. But we have one more question from my girl, Kristen McLaughlin. Hi, Ben and Christy. A shout out from Lake Lanier in Cumming, Georgia. Wait, is it Lake Lanier or Lanier?
Lake Lanier. I used to live there in Gainesville.
Yeah. That's awesome. Question: how do you vet your homeowners to ensure they are in good standing for the longevity of your client stays?
So we have a very thorough vetting process with our homeowners, because honestly, it's not for everybody. What we do is not for every investor. And we make sure that they know exactly what is expected of them. We provide them with an entire book of information of what it looks like to be a property owner, and what this relationship looks like. With that, we will go through, and we don't just accept. We're not your typical property management company. Most property management companies go, oh, great, you have a place for me to rent. All right, here's the contract, sign it, let's go. That's not us. We have very specific requirements for our properties. They have to be in certain locations. They have to have certain looks to them. The furnishings have to be very particular and done in a very certain way. We cannot have old granny furniture in our properties. You can't have properties that need paint, that need all these fixtures. I'm going to ask you to put granite countertops in if your countertops are those, cheapo rental countertops. Like, this is a higher quality tenant that you're getting. These are not people that destroy your property. So you need to take that same care and effort into making sure that it is worth what these people are paying for. So we're very upfront with that with all of our homeowners. And if they're interested in becoming a homeowner, which, by the way, Kristen, we are coming to Atlanta. So we will, starting in January, we're expanding to Atlanta. So we'll be taking over the Atlanta branch, which we're very excited about. But that'll be after the first of the year. But so after we've gone through and we've done our walkthrough with our homeowners, and we've given them the very large list of things that they have to do to their home before we're willing to take it on, if they're still saying, yes, I want to do this, then we move forward. The most homeowners are, because of the kind of income that it's going to be bringing them, they're more than happy to do what we ask them to do. And then there's certain properties that just don't meet our criteria, and we say, hey, we'd be happy to manage it because we do long-term property management as well, and we're equally as particular, and we take care of our long-term properties with the same care and attention to detail as we do with our short-term corporate houses. So you still can have that same higher level of property management with us doing long-term rentals as well.
All right, so we got some more questions coming in here. Okay, so Sandra Clary says, what covers normal wear and tear impacts and any accidental damages?
Okay, so it depends on what it is. If it's normal wear and tear, obviously, just like with any other rental, the owner covers it. What we do though is we provide all of the vendors. So anyone necessary to get that taken care of, we take care of it. And we make sure it happens. We get it at the best price with the highest quality of service because we've worked very hard to gain our relationships with our vendors. So that's normal wear and tear. That being said, you don't have the same normal wear and tear with a corporate housing as you do long-term tenants. You don't see that because people aren't living in your home for long term. And also we're in that home a minimum of 2 times per month because we have our own cleaning service. And as you know, with most corporate housing, they ask for cleaning as well. So we do not outsource any of our cleaning because we've learned the hard way that we do it best. So we make sure to decrease that.
So we got another question here. Jamie Master, do you maintenance the homes or expect the homeowner to handle it?
We maintenance it. So the homeowner does it comes out of that monthly rent that they get if there's anything, but our goal with our property management motto is it is better to prevent than it is to an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So if we're going in and we're making sure we're doing all of the things preventatively to maintain the home, it costs you significantly less in the long run than I'm maintaining the air conditioning unit so that I don't have to fix the air conditioning unit. And that's the thing too with corporate housing, the corporate clients demand immediate attention. So if anything breaks, that's money out of my pocket as a property management owner because I'm having to rush and figure out how to fix it. Whereas if I just maintain it so that it doesn't break, I don't have to worry about that. And it doesn't hurt my reputation as a corporate housing provider.
All right, let's see here. We got some more questions here. Janet Turner, do you partner with other corporate housing companies and vice versa?
Oh yeah. Like right now we're full. We're 100%. We've got no properties available. I'm booked through August, probably September, because my one person who's supposed to be moving out in August just told me she wasn't. So I've got nothing, but I'm still getting requests pouring in. So I have other corporate housing providers in the area that I'll call and say, hey, do you have something? And we do trade back and forth. If they've got someone for me, I'll give someone to them, and we trade back and forth for that. But because we're a full service relocation company, so if someone moves to the area, we're not only able to provide the corporate housing, we're a licensed real estate agency. I'm actually helping them find their home. So I'm turning them, I'm not just having them as a corporate client. I'm turning around and saying, hey, let's find your home for you. And then when they find their home for me, we also have a concierge service business. So we're able to fully service them from the point of giving them temporary housing all the way to the point of buying their home, moving them into their home, and then helping them to maintain their home after they've already moved in. We don't get rid of our clients.
So Francine has a couple of questions here. I'll ask this one first. How many homes do you have in your inventory?
Right now, we have 10, and we're growing rapidly. We've got several more coming on in the next couple of months. I'm booked solid, and I'm getting requests on a daily basis. So anyone in the Raleigh area interested in becoming a corporate rental, please reach out to me because I need properties.
Yeah, awesome. And then Francine goes on to say, how has your business changed since COVID? And now, and this is actually a segue too. I'd like to talk about that.
Way to go, Francine. That's a beautiful segue.
We have very savvy audience members here. Yes.
So for the first, I'd say 4 weeks of COVID, we kind of went like completely we were going, oh no, what are we going to do? For the first time ever, we had a vacancy. We'd never had a vacancy. And we were going, what are we going to do now we're vacant? That lasted a week. And then we got full again, and we maintained vacancy ever since. Because here's the thing, the apartment world, corporate housing with apartments, you hold the rent for that apartment, you rent the furniture, you have all this overhead, you have all these units, and now all of a sudden corporate travel has stopped, but you still have to pay all these bills. Well, with our company, that's not how it works. Oh yeah, sorry, Holly. I should have said that. We have over 500 properties nationwide. I'm referring to Raleigh. We have over 500 nationwide. Thanks, Holly.
Yep. There you
We are
go.
in
No
16
worries.
different locations across the country. So I'm speaking for Raleigh, but we do have.
Do you have a
500
Detroit? Do you
across
have a
the country.
Detroit office, by the way, or Michigan
We do
office?
not. We
Okay.
would love one though.
Cool.
So if you know anyone who's interested, we are actively growing and seeking new locations to continue spreading to. So, but where was I with this? Oh,
Speaking
COVID.
of spreading, COVID.
So COVID. So at first, we all panicked a little bit. I think all of us were feeling the pinch of COVID, and it was certain areas a little more than others. But in Raleigh, we had about 2 weeks where 2 of our properties were just vacant, and we were not used to that, and we were struggling a little. Then all of a sudden that changed, because what happened was people were still moving to the area, but now all the hotels were closed down. They didn't want to live in apartments. The apartments were, it didn't really work for families. So now all of a sudden, I was getting all these phone calls. Do you have availability? Do you have, they were, and I booked up, and then I stayed booked throughout the rest of the summer. And I've still to this, I have one property that's that's available, but it's because I'm not actively pushing it, because it's under construction still, kind of. So I'm just kind of like, when the construction finishes, then we're going to actively push to get that rented. But COVID honestly really, it impacted us initially, but then once people started realizing what we were, and that we were single family homes, and we afforded that privacy and that ability to not have to be, on top of a bunch of strangers, it really didn't affect us. In fact, it actually pushed me to leave my other job as a nurse, because we were picking up speed so much with our business, and we were adding on properties. And how do you?
I really want to hear about your COVID story, but we have one more question here.
Okay.
Laura says, how do you find your properties? Do owners reach out to you? Apologies if you covered this.
Oh no, we haven't. So there's different methods, honestly, because I've been so busy in the recovery from COVID process, which we're about to get to. I haven't had the ability to really reach out as much as I'd like to. There is a lot of searching. I have certain areas that I have my eyes on, and that I'm going, I really want a property in this location. And so part of that is going to be reaching out to homeowners or homeowners and investors that already have properties there, and letting them know what we do. So a lot of that is just education and letting owners know that this is a possibility. The properties that we have now were owners that came to us. They found out what we were doing. They heard through the grapevine, and they were like, heck yeah, I want a part of this. So that is how we started. But I'm actively seeking new properties because we need it.
So is this something where also, like, if I had like 30 grand or 40 grand or something, and I wanted to buy an investment property or something like that, I might say, hey, you know what, Christy, give me a neighborhood in Raleigh that you want to source or whatever, and
I got
I'll
one right
buy
now,
a house.
and a house that's for sale too. So I want the
Christy's
house across the street.
You know what we need to do? We need to get a Love and Relo like fund together. Okay. So whenever we have like really cool ideas on the show, everybody kicks in like $1,000 or something like that. We go in and we like make these little plays in the marketplace. We buy ourselves a little rental property or something like that. That'd be really fun.
The return on turning your home into a corporate rental is much larger than long-term, plus the protection value of the property, meaning typical long-term rentals, you get a renter in, you don't go back into the property until that renter moves out. When you go back in, you have anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 worth of fixtures that you have to do to get that place rentable again, depending on how bad the tenant was. Just for example, my property that we just sold, the one that we started this business with, we decided to sell it because I wanted to quit nursing. And I said, you know what, let's take the equity that we've had for the past 2 years of owning this property. Let's take it. We're going to live off of it for the next few months, and we're going to go all in. So it's like, it's do or die now. Like we have 4 months to either like sink or swim. So that's kind of the situation we're in now. That property just sold for $25,000 over market value. we didn't have to do a thing to it. And we sold all the furnishings for another $15,000. So we ended up making, we bought the place for $159,000. We sold it for significantly more, do the math, than what it was even worth. The closest property in that area to that was sold for $170,000. We sold for $216,000. And
Wow.
so that gives you an idea of what our model and what we do, how that helps with that that equity and that the money that you're putting into the property. And that being said, we did that and did not have to do a thing to the property. It's actually still has a tenant in it. The tenant is going to switch over to the new manager, to the new property owner in August. We're still going to continue to manage the property, and then we'll just get a new tenant in there. And he literally has not had to do anything.
We got some phenomenal comments going on here. People, I think, it's like having light bulb moments over here. Mary Lee, Janet, everybody's talking. Holly's selling stuff. It sounds like she's selling franchises in the comments.
No, she's saying where Holly's letting her know that we have franchises in 16 different places across the country. We do this in more than just Raleigh. Like I said, where my goal is Atlanta. So if there's anyone in the Atlanta area that's interested in getting into corporate housing, I need properties, and I need them in the next few months because we're getting started.
So I'm gonna cap this because I want to talk about COVID. Okay, and nobody wants to talk about COVID, but you know what? We got somebody here that's actually had COVID-19. Okay,
yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of people that don't know anybody, or they might know a friend of a friend, or like I think it's coming a little more into people's sphere of influence now. But there was a long time where nobody knew anybody that had COVID-19, and so people thought it was like not a real thing. They thought it was a hoax. They thought whatever. And here we got somebody who's actually had COVID-19, Kristi Davis. What was your experience like with COVID-19?
So, little background there. My background is an ER nurse. I've been an ER nurse for, I lost count of the number of years, 10, I think. And I was working in the ER in the COVID unit for 4 months and never got sick because you know what? Washing your hands works. Wearing your mask works. So anyone out there that doesn't want to wash their hands or wear their mask needs to stop because that is...
You're saying wearing a mask, right? So is it an N95 mask in order to protect yourself and a cloth mask to protect
You're not
others?
protecting yourself. You're protecting others. Because
So
here's the thing.
Other people wear a mask, that works for you.
Yes.
If
you should wear the mask because you should respect others enough to know that exactly. So respect your fellow human beings enough to know that you're contagious. They may not be. And by wearing a mask, that's keeping you from your germs getting to other people. It is not protecting you in any way, shape, or form.
So I posted this. I reposted this meme on Facebook. Okay, pardon the language, everybody. But just love and real. It's my show. I'll say what I want. Okay. The whole COVID-19 thing is like peeing in public. Okay, we're all walking around peeing in public. If we're not wearing any pants, then we're gonna pee on each other. It's gonna get on us directly. Okay. If you're wearing pants, then you're not gonna get wet immediately. Okay, it's gonna be kind of bad, but not really bad. Okay. If we're both wearing pants, then nothing happens. Okay, I'm just peeing on myself. Okay. So I think the concept here with wearing a mask is, hey, you know what? You're gonna be peeing on everybody. You might as well wear a mask. Make sure you don't pee on other people. Okay?
I'm living proof that wearing a mask and washing your hands keeps you from getting COVID. Because for 4 months, I worked directly with COVID patients. I did CPR on COVID patients. You know, I worked directly with COVID patients and never got COVID.
But then people are going to say, but yeah, you did, Kristi. So you got COVID. So how'd that happen?
So here's how that happened. I will admit this was not a smart decision on my part, and my husband still gets on to me for it. My son had his 3-year-old birthday. We decided we would invite, socially distance, outside, everyone wear their masks, and we had 2 other 3-year-olds and 2 parents there, 3 parents there. Nobody was close. The only person who came in contact with our family was my dad. We hadn't seen my dad in 4 months. We allowed my dad to come to the birthday party. Nobody else came anywhere near my dad. No one else got COVID. My son ran up and hugged my dad. My dad wasn't wearing a mask. And
Oh
my
gosh.
son hugged him and sat on his lap before we said, hey, no, don't do that. And the little germ monger then, my dad the next day started having COVID symptoms. So he was asymptomatic on the day of the birthday. The next day he started having, I won't say what he had, but it was not a pretty situation.
Yeah.
So then by Friday, my husband called me. I was at work. I was working in burn ICU that night, but my husband called me and said, "Hey, I have a fever." And I was like, "Crap, you have COVID." Cause like, we don't get fevers. Like our family, we're not fever people. So I'm like, there's no way you don't have COVID. So I called my work and said, "Hey, husband has a fever." They were like, "You can't come back to work until you test for COVID. We got to have a negative test." So I was thinking, I'm just going to go get tested. I don't have any symptoms. I'm fine. So I went that following Monday to get tested and it came back positive. And then by Monday night, I was running 103 fever.
Oh my gosh.
And then my husband, he was full on like sick at that point. Well, Monday morning, I had to go check on my dad because I was taking him to get tested too, because I didn't know he was having symptoms on Wednesday. He didn't tell anybody. He didn't tell anyone he wasn't feeling good. So I told him, "Hey, we all need to go get tested for COVID because Jason may have it and you came in contact with him, at Samuel's birthday. We need to go get tested." So I went to go get him to get tested. And when I got him, he could barely breathe. Like, he could barely walk, and he was like stumbling. And so I took him straight to the ER and was like, "You need to go to the ER," not because you could hear him. His breathing was so bad. He ended up getting admitted to ICU. He was in ICU for 3 weeks with COVID. And they called me and said, "Hey, he's not going to make it. Like, we're just kind of waiting. We're putting him on palliative care. We're waiting for him to die at this point." And I was like, okay, like, I don't know what to do with that. But my dad was a DNR, DNI. For those of you who aren't medical, that means do not resuscitate, do not intubate. He was very clear he didn't ever want to be intubated. So they didn't intubate him. But they had him for almost 3 weeks on the highest level of oxygen he could stand.
And intubate means breathing tube.
Breathing tube, yeah, putting a tube down his.
And so instead, they had the oxygen mask over his face.
Yeah, they had that. They had the Darth Vader mask.
And they're just pumping him with oxygen.
BiPAP. Okay. Yeah, and they're just pumping him the maximum oxygen he could do. He was living. His oxygen saturation was living in like the low 80s for like weeks. So much to the point where he lost over 20 pounds because he couldn't even eat because he was so short of breath.
Was he conscious this time?
I would say he was conscious, but he wasn't like with it. So like if you tried to talk to him, he couldn't really talk to him. And he was so short of breath. And of course, during this time, you can't go visit him because we all actually, even my son, my 3-year-old, tested positive for COVID. So like literally our whole family had it. And then after a week of having it, I started feeling better and I stopped having fevers and I was like, awesome, it's over. Woohoo. I don't have to deal with COVID anymore. 2 days later, my fever spiked again, and then I stopped being able to breathe. Like I was like breathing like 40 and 50 times a minute. Normal is 12 to 16. So finally, being a nurse, I told my husband early on in the COVID, we need to make sure we have a pulse oximeter just so we know we can keep track of what's going on because all of us have asthma. So we had the pulse oximeter, and if I wasn't like breathing 50 times a minute, if I would like consciously slow down my breathing, my oxygen saturation would drop into the 80s. So at that point, my husband was like, "Yeah, we need to go to the hospital." So I went to the hospital, they drew blood, and COVID actually doesn't just attack your lungs, it attacks your bone marrow. So it almost acts like bone marrow cancer. So because what it does, it attacks your body's ability to produce those white blood cells that fight the infection. So like it doesn't do this with everybody, but in the really severe cases, it actually attacks your body's ability to fight the infection. So that's what it did to me. My white blood cells went down to less than 1, and I was neutropenic, and they admitted me to the hospital because they said, if you don't get admitted to the hospital, you're going to catch an infection and die of something other than COVID if you don't die of COVID. So they admitted me, and I was at the point on the verge of getting sent to the ICU because I was so sick and I was breathing so fast. But luckily they did an experimental treatment on me. I was one of 15 in the world that had it done. And I had a 86% chance of it being the treatment and then a 14% chance of it being a placebo. So we just took our chances because obviously in our life, taking a chance has been a good thing to do. So we said, let's just trust that we're going to get the treatment. And
what was the treatment?
It was monoclonal antibodies. UNC Hospital right now is doing a study on something called monoclonal antibodies. Basically what it is, they isolated the antibody that is produced in people who've had COVID. So, because antibodies are what help your body fight. They're those markers that say, hey, this has been here, so that your body knows that that's, an intruder. So the antibodies that are formed by people who've already had it, they isolated that antibody and then they reproduced it in the lab and they put thousands of them in an IV bag. And they said, here, take these antibodies.
And did that work for you?
Yeah. The next day I was not needing oxygen anymore. And then the day after that, I was could walk without feeling like I was going to pass out. And then they discharged me. So it literally cured me.
So now let me ask you this, right? Because people talk about, having the antibody, right? Having the antibody, or just being asymptomatic and having the antibody or whatever. Do you think that you can get COVID twice or more than once?
I think that if you are educated well and understand microbiology,
which I do not.
Right. So I think that I'm trying to say this very carefully because I'm I don't want people to be like, I can't believe she said that.
That ship is sailed.
Yeah,
all right?
at this, I know, right?
So now just give me your opinion on
it. I think if you didn't have COVID to begin with, then yes, you can get it again. Or if you had an extremely mild case, just like the chickenpox, can you get the chickenpox twice? Yeah, if you have an extremely mild case of chickenpox that your body did not mount a large reaction to it, then yeah, it's possible to get it again. That being said, you never really had it to begin with, fully. So is that a reinfection or is that just you never had it to begin with, so you have it
okay,
now?
so generally no, but maybe.
Yeah. Generally no.
Dumb it down for me.
Yeah,
okay.
Generally no, but maybe. So yeah, so if you have the long-term antibodies in your system, the odds of you getting it again are extremely, extremely low because your body already has the markers. So if it already has the markers, it's going to be able to attack. If it comes in contact with it again, it'll be able to attack it and kill it before it replicates enough to cause an issue.
All right. So really quick, couple of questions here. Francine says, wow, this is crazy, Christy. Thank you for sharing your story and so glad you are doing well. How are your dad and husband doing now?
Dad is out of the hospital. He is in a rehabilitation center right now because he lost over 20 pounds and didn't walk for 3 weeks. So he's kind of learning to walk again and doing that. But he's looking like he'll be able to mount a semi-full recovery. He might still need oxygen for a long time, but at least he's able to breathe and he's able to rehab. So after they told him he was going to die, it's pretty miraculous. My dad's had 4 strokes. He's beaten the odds so many times.
Wow.
I'm not super surprised that he beat it this time either, but he's one of the most resilient people you'll ever meet. And my husband was fine after a week. He's good.
Yeah, okay, that was the next question. And then Laura says, thank you for educating us. So happy you're feeling better, Christy.
Oh, thank you.
Gabby appreciates incredible story. And then Janet has, do you think research is really ready in this short time period to develop the proper vaccine?
So here's the thing. And my husband is better to speak on this than I am because he actually has his PhD in pharmacology and he's actually helping develop vaccines. Yeah. So bringing Jason, he just walked out of the house. So
Jason, get back here, Jason.
I need you to say this. But he has to be careful what he says because his job. Right. But from a medical standpoint, absolutely, you can, because the reason why it takes so long to develop vaccines is because of the red tape that goes up to be able to test and ensure accuracy of the vaccine. So if you take that red tape down, which is what they've done for COVID, and the tests that actually have to go into making sure the vaccine is safe aren't that difficult. And they're not something that requires loads and loads of time. It's just our FDA and our government agencies that put all these controls on things is what makes vaccine development take such a long time. So it's a matter of you have enough people working hard enough on it and actually being allowed to do the research versus, all right, you've got this. Now we have to wait for 2 months. Okay, now you can do this next step.
Yeah. So I'm like of two minds on this, right? Because without all the testing, you get these, hydrochloroquine, situations going on where people are like, oh, try hydrochloroquine, die faster,
Well,
and then
they didn't actually do research on that before they suggested it. So don't get me started on that one.
So that's different. So that's okay. So somewhere in the middle is probably the answer, because it sounds like they're doing some great second round and maybe third round testing on some.
From what I've heard, unofficially, there's like 123 different vaccines that are extremely viable options right now. I know for a fact UNC is getting ready to do a study on 2 of them. It's actually to the point of they're doing safety and efficacy studies on them. So everyone in the world is rushing to get a vaccine. But what my husband's job is his job is to help these companies to be able to ensure that these drugs that they're trying to develop are safe. So that's what he does for a living. And that's something that can be done quicker than what we typically do it in.
So while you're not Dr. Fauci and you're not really,
I'm not a doctor.
Technically qualified to speak on this.
Nope.
One of the recurring themes of the show is that we just have wild speculation moments, right? And
this is all speculation. I am in no way. I feel like I need a scroll bar that says I am not.
As long as we tell people we're full of it, we can say whatever we want. Yeah. So full disclosure, we're full of it. But question is, what do you think the future is for a vaccine? Timetable it for me. When do you think we'll have a functional vaccine that can be widely distributed to people, so I can, go about my life and hug people again?
I wouldn't anticipate it before a year. I think it's going to take at least a full year.
Still a year out. Well,
typically it takes 5 to 6 years, so that's still a very fast timeline.
That's so interesting you said it, because Dr. Fauci said 18 months, back in March, and you're basically saying that same timetable.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. Knowing what goes into, because my husband does what he does, and like I said, our family doesn't do anything halfway. So I make sure I understand what my husband's doing just as much as he's involved in our business and what we do. Knowing what he does and knowing the steps that it takes in order to ensure something is safe, and it's not possible to do it in less than a year. It is possible to do it in less than 6, which is what it would normally take, but it's not possible in less than a year, just because you don't want to put a product out there that isn't safe.
Hey, on that note, I think that's a great place to pause our conversation. I'm not going to say end our conversation, because I hope we get to talk many more times. Maybe you can help me make 3x my mortgage on my home. That would be fantastic.
I'd be happy to do so.
No, but this is eye-opening on so many levels. I love the new take on corporate housing. I love to hear about your COVID story. Thank God you're over it. And I'm so happy about that. But I wanted to ask you, Christy, I wanted to kind of give you the final word here. Is there anything that you think that our listeners should hear?
Yeah. Anything you do it as if you're doing it for yourself, not for someone. Do it in a way that you would be proud of what you're accomplishing. Because I think what most people do, and where we're struggling today, and in most businesses and in other ways, is we get so caught up in making money and being successful that we forget to go back to that original thing of why we started in the first place. And that's one thing that me and my husband on a daily basis remind ourselves is we're here, and our success is not because we're successful. Our success is because we truly care about making sure that people have the ability to have quality so as long as we keep sight of that, no matter how big we get and no matter how successful our company becomes, we know that we're doing the right thing. And so anything you do, make sure that that is the number one goal, is that is something that when you lay down your head at night, you can go, I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud of what I did today. I'm proud of how I affected others and how I encouraged and how I was able to relate to people in a way that truly meant something to them. Not how much money did I make today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Elena says, so thankful you survived and feeling better, Christy. Thanks for sharing so many of your stories. You've really educated us in several areas today.
Oh, thanks.
And I will echo that, Elena. Wonderful comment. Way to summarize it. Christy, it's been a real blessing and an honor having you on here. I feel smarter. I feel inspired. And thank you so much for what you're doing out there. And I look forward to hearing more about it. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about my house.
Hey, call me anytime. You have my number.
Awesome. Well, we've got a great lineup this week, everybody. You heard from Kristi Davis today. We have Miriam Van Kempen from Heart Relocation in the Netherlands. Tomorrow, we've got Scott Augenbaum, author and cybersecurity expert, former FBI agent, on Wednesday. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Miriam, thank you. Miriam's at 3 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. Scott Augenbaum, cybersecurity expert, is at 4 p.m. on Wednesday. At 11 a.m. 11 a.m. Eastern time, we have Emery Castaneda from Unilever. She is based in the Philippines, which is why we're coming to you for breakfast. I'm really excited to hear about her take from an Asian perspective on global mobility programs. And then we have the Vice President of Government Affairs for Worldwide ERC, Rebecca Peters, on Friday at 3 p.m. So tune in for that. And thank you so much again, Christy, for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Take care, everybody. See you soon.
Bye.